And we're back again for another episode.
I just finished my drink. Hello.
Because you snarfed that thing down.
Yeah.
You're like, yes, give it to me, all of it. Hi, welcome back.
Hey, welcome.
It's another episode of the All Things Strange podcast.
Yes,
I'm
it is.
Brittney.
I'm Kristen.
And this is the podcast where we talk about anything and everything strange, anything weird, anything that makes us think, I guess, is what we're calling this now. Last week we did medical mysteries. This week we're doing shaman, or shaman-like people.
Like ramen.
But
shaman. Shaman ramen.
I've seen a lot of different explanations on what shaman really are. I've seen them as medicine men and healers. I've seen them as people who bring ecstasy and good fortune. I've seen them as those who walk the shadow realm. Just there's so many different ways that this could go. I really struggled on which way I wanted to go. Changed last minute, changed it again last minute, and now I'm just whatever comes out of my mouth is coming out of my mouth. Hopefully not bile.
Do you want to do yours first?
Nope.
No?
No, I don't want to do mine first, just because it might be a little weird, but you can go ahead and do yours first. Okay. Because I have no problem. I went first last time anyways, so.
Okay, mine is on one of the most famous shaman of all time.
Okay.
Grigory Rasputin.
Oh!
Yeah, I was so excited.
That's incredible.
He is so fascinating to me.
Yes, he is.
So don't let this scare you. I just highlighted the different points. So Rasputin, he was a gentleman who...
A gentleman?
Well,
really?
I'm getting kind of free and loose with that term. So he was born as a peasant in a small village of... he's from Russia, so my apologies. Pokrovskoy?
Pokrovskoy?
Pokrovskoy? Yeah, that place. So, we're just going to call it hometown.
Yes, hometown.
Yes. And that nice little place is, it's in Siberia.
Oh.
Yeah, so way the fuck out there.
Really?
Yes. He was born the 21st of January in 1869. So I got most of the stuff off of Wikipedia. I've watched numerous things about Rasputin.
You know my favorite one is?
What?
Anastasia.
Yeah. Right?
Like the little bat.
That's funny.
Bartok!
He's kind of a mystery. I mean, his early youth and adulthood, a lot of it is speculation. And it's one gentleman, a historian named Douglas Smith, he said that his early adulthood and childhood is a black hole about which we know almost nothing. So most historians agree that, like most Siberian peasants, Rasputin was never formally educated, and he remained illiterate well into his adulthood. Wow. Into his early... That's
not uncommon either.
Not in the early... No. So, local archival records suggest that he had somewhat unruly youth, possibly involving drinking, small thefts, disrespect for local authorities, just being a dick. But a lot of people start a lot of rumors when it comes to Rasputin. And one of the things that they said that he was that he did was steal horses and blasphemy, bearing false witness when he was a little kid. There's no evidence. Okay. So all major crimes, those were all just rumored. In 1886, Rasputin traveled to Abalak, where he met a peasant girl named Praskovia Dubrovina. Yeah, let's do that. After a courtship of several months, they married in February 1887. We'll call her Prasky. She remained in hometown throughout Rasputin's later travels and rise to prominence, and she remained devoted to him until his death.
Really?
Yeah, so, I found that interesting.
They were hardly ever together, and she was like, "Nah, dude, that's my husband."
Yeah, and they had 7 children.
How? He was never there.
Well, in the off season, I guess. But only 3 survived into adulthood.
Oh, that sucks.
They're also saying that Rasputin himself was one of either 7 or one of 8 or 9. It's disputed. Jeez. And only 2 of them.
Man.
Him and one other girl. But the girl that lived, the other girl, they're not even sure if she was really his sister.
That would be really hard to prove in this day and age. Without having all of that information.
Oh my god, excuse me.
Gesundheit.
Okay, so basically Rasputin, what he decided as a young man, in 1897, he developed a renewed interest in religion. And he left his wife to go on a pilgrimage. And his reasons for doing so are unclear. There's a lot of speculation on that. He was 28 and he had been married for 10 years. And he had an infant son with another child on the way when he did this.
Of course he did.
Yeah. Right?
Well.
So before this one, he had taken shorter pilgrimages to... it's called the Holy Zamnensky Monastery at Abalak and to the Dolbskis Cathedral. But his visit to the St. Nicholas Monastery in 1897 was transformative. There he was profoundly humbled by an elder known as Makary. Makary. Macary.
Hey, Macarena.
I'm going to go with Macary. It sounds more fun.
We just call it Macarena.
Yeah. Hey, Macary.
No.
Rasputin, he may have spent several months at this this monastery, and it was perhaps here where he learned to read and write.
Okay.
So that's when he started to become a little bit more literate, and then he later complained about the monastery itself, claiming that some of the monks engaged in homosexuality and criticizing monastic life as too coercive. So he returned to his wife as a changed man, and he looked disheveled. That's when he started growing out his hair, long beard, all that fun stuff, and he was behaving differently. He became a vegetarian, swore off alcohol, and prayed and sang much more fervently than he had in the past.
Oh.
Yeah, so
So he was definitely a changed man.
Definitely.
But was it for the better?
No.
Just kidding.
Definitely not. Rasputin would spend the years that followed living as they call it a straniki. It's a holy wanderer or a pilgrim, and he would leave his wife for months or even years at a time to wander the country and visit a variety of different holy sites. It's said that he may have even wandered as far as Athos, Greece.
Really?
Yes, the center of Orthodox monastic life in 1900.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's kind of interesting to think that he may have gone to Greece.
His poor wife, man. She must have been so lonely. You know she had to have been hitting something on the side, though.
I don't know, because if she was as religious as he was, maybe not.
That's true.
And this is kind of interesting. I'm going to read this paragraph to you because I thought it was fascinating.
Okay.
It says, by the early 1900s, Rasputin had developed a small circle of acolytes, primarily family members and other local peasants who prayed with him on Sundays and other holy days when he was in his hometown. Building a makeshift chapel in Ephraim's root cellar. Ephraim was his father. Mm-hmm. He was still living with his father at the time. The group held secret prayer meetings there. These meetings were the subject of some suspicion and hostility from the village priest and other villagers. It was rumored that the female followers were ceremoniously washing him before each meeting, that the group sang strange songs that the other villagers had not heard before, and even that Rasputin had joined the Kailastai. It's a religious sect whose ecstatic rituals were rumored to include self-flagellation and sexual orgy.
Oh.
Yeah. According to another historian, Joseph Furman, repeated investigations failed to establish that Rasputin was ever a member of that particular sect.
Yeah.
But a lot of the rumors were that he was practicing things like them. So even though that's unfounded, but that kind of gives you where he was at with the villagers. So he's creating his own little secret
cult, basically.
Yeah.
He's a cult leader.
And these are tiny, this is early 1900s, so these are tiny little villages.
Yeah.
Where the religious life, that was everything within your little society. If you didn't go to church, then you weren't part of the community.
Yeah, back in those times, in those small communities, religion came before family, it came before it came before work, it came before breathing, basically. Breathing, eating, basic human need. He basically just started his own cult.
Basically. And if you weren't part of the community, then nobody would help you when you were in trouble. And back then, that could mean death.
Yeah. For something as easy as a slice on the arm, you know?
So that's kind of his early life, what he did. Part of him rising to prominence is the word of his charisma and activities that began to spread in Siberia during the early 1900s. And between 1902 and 1904, he traveled to the city of Kazan on the Volga River, where he acquired a reputation as a wise and perceptive starret or holy man. who could help people resolve their spiritual crisis and anxieties. So there was a lot of rumors going around that he was having sex with some of his female followers, but he won over, despite those rumors, he won over the Father Superior of the Seven Lakes Monastery outside of Kazan, as well as the local church officials at, I can't even say this, Archimandrite Andre and Bishop Chrysotheanos,
Sure.
who gave him a letter of recommendation to Bishop Sergei, and he was the rector of the St. Peter's Theological Seminary, and so they arranged for him to go to St. Petersburg. So now this is where he's starting to make his connections.
Yeah.
And
this is where all the famous shit is starting to come
Exactly. And this guy is very prominent. He has a lot of connections.
So not only is he like a cult leader in a sense, he's basically a con man, because if he has all of these rumors going around him and yet he still managed to persuade these higher ups that he is a good, decent man.
But maybe it was just because he was so mystic.
Maybe. That's very true too.
I don't know. There's a lot of mystery
Mystic
surrounding
pizza?
him. Yes. Upon meeting Sergei at the Nevsky Monastery, Rasputin, he was introduced to a lot of different higher-ups within the church. And he was introduced to Archimandrite Feofan, and he was the inspector of the Theological Seminary, and he was well connected within St. Petersburg society.
Okay.
Hence his doorway. And he later, this Archimandrite Feofan, he later served as a confessor for the Tsar and his wife.
Whoa.
Yeah. So Feofan was so impressed with Rasputin that he invited him to stay at his house.
Really?
Yes, in St. Petersburg.
That's a big deal.
And he became a very important and influential friend for him within St. Petersburg society. By 1905, Rasputin had formed friendships with several members of the aristocracy. Aristocracy. It sounds weird when you say that.
Aristocracy.
Aristocracy.
There we go.
Woo! Words.
I do aristocracy too, so I'm just like, whatever. See, aristocracy.
Aristocracy. Yes. So some of these people that he met, they're called the Black Princesses, and their names are Milista and Anastasia of Montenegro, and they married the Tsar's cousins. And they were instrumental in introducing Rasputin to the Tsar and his family.
Alrighty then.
Mm-hmm. So the first time Rasputin ever met the Tsar was on November 1st, 1905 at the Peterhof Palace. And the Tsar actually recorded this event in his diary, writing that he and Alexandra had made the acquaintance of a man of God, Gregory, from the Tobolsk province. And so then a few months went by. He didn't see the Tsars at all. He went back home for a while. And he returned in July 1906. However, Rasputin wrote several letters to the Tsar during this time.
Okay.
So he kept up with his...
Lines of communications were still open.
And so for those of you who don't know, the Tsars, they had a young prince. His name was Alexei, and he was the heir to he was supposed to be the next Tsar. Yeah. Is it a throne? I guess it is.
I mean, it probably is, but it's just easier just to say he's the heir to the throne.
Yes.
Not the English throne, but the Russian throne.
What's interesting about Alexei is that he had hemophilia, where you know what hemophilia is, where your blood doesn't clot?
Yeah.
It's something to do with, like, either is it the white or red blood cells where they won't clot?
I think it's the red blood cells not clotting.
Yeah.
There's no
very
hemoglobin.
Dangerous. Right. Very, very dangerous, especially back then.
Yeah, if you get a paper cut, you're screwed.
Yeah, it was scary. And they used to actually call that it was like the royal disease or something, because it started back with, was it Queen Victoria? I can't remember. I think it was, it was Queen Victoria, and that was Alexei's great-grandmother. But it started back in England, and it was like only the rich noble families have it, but they would keep it a secret, and they kept it so secretive that and Queen Victoria was such a huge influence on the world that she would marry out her children and her grandchildren and her great-grandchildren out into all of these other royal families.
Yeah.
And so it became like a royal crisis throughout the world.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, you can't let other people know about that, because your enemies are just going to come in here and slice off your arm real quick. And
when you're crowned, that's by the
It's by God.
It's by God.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is by God that you were chosen.
Exactly. And so he had hemophilia, and the doctors couldn't help him because it was the early 1900s. When the doctors couldn't help Alexei, the Tsarina, she looked everywhere for help. She ultimately turned to her best friend Anna to secure the help of the charismatic peasant healer Rasputin in 1905.
Oh.
Yes. So he was actually able to give the boy some relief in spite of the doctor's predictions that he would die. And every time the boy had an injury which caused him internal or external bleeding, the Tsarina, she would call in Rasputin, and the Tsarevich subsequently got better. This made it appear that Rasputin was effectively healing him. And some people say, well, maybe he did it by hypnosis, but there was times when Rasputin wasn't around and Alexei would get hurt and he'd have some sort of bleeding issue. And Rasputin would send word, okay, do things like keeping him calm, don't let the doctors interfere. So they just think that he was allowing the boy to kind of heal by himself.
Yeah. I'm not buying that.
So I don't know. So basically, after all this, I mean, they had a bunch of girls and Alexei was it. That was who's going to be the next Tsar. And so the Tsar, he ended up referring to Rasputin as our friend and a holy man. And that's a huge sign of the kind of confidence that the family placed in him.
Well, obviously, if he, supposedly saved that kid, God knows how many times.
Well, the Tsar and the Tsarina considered him a holy prophet, a man of God and a religious prophet is what it says.
Okay.
Yeah, and Alexandra, the Tsarina, she came to believe that God spoke to her through Rasputin.
What?
Yes, because he was a holy man and he was helping her son and the doctors couldn't, so God was speaking to her. So some of the controversy that he was involved in, he soon became controversial, becoming involved in a paradigm of sharp political struggle involving monarchist, anti-monarchist, revolutionary, and other political forces and interests. He was accused by many eminent persons of various misdeeds, ranging from an unrestricted sexual life, including raping a nun, to undue political domination over the royal family. So this was already like a really bad like political and social time within Russia, and he just was in the thick of it. Yeah. And people were pissed off. And so
he obviously didn't make as many, friends as he did enemies.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know, because he had a lot of followers. You should see all these. I'll show you some of these pictures of a bunch of admirers that he has. St. Petersburg in 1903, the city was wildly fascinated in general with mysticism, and aristocrats were obsessed with anything occult. So this is also, actually we should probably even write this down too, but like around the time with the occult and mysticism during the late 1800s, early 1900s, so like Madame Blavatsky, I believe was around this time as well. While fascinated by him, the St. Petersburg elite did not actually like accept him for the most part. He didn't fit in with the royal family, and he and the Russian Orthodox Church had a very strained relationship. Very strained. In fact, so strained that the Holy Synod frequently attacked Rasputin, accusing him of a variety of immoral or evil practices. But because Rasputin was a court official, he and his apartment were under 24-hour surveillance, and accordingly, there exists some credible evidence about his lifestyle in the form of they're called staircase notes, and there were reports from police spies which were not given only to the Tsar, but published in newspapers.
Really?
Yes. So I would love to look those up. I didn't have time to look those up, but I would love to.
That would be incredible, just to
know who he was fucking and who he wasn't, and that'd be interesting. So like many spiritually minded Russians, Rasputin spoke of salvation as depending less on the clergy and on the church than seeking the spirit of the God within. Okay. Therein lies the conflict between him and the Orthodox Church. Yes. Okay, so one thing that was really big was Rasputin was deeply opposed to war, and both from a moral point and something which was likely led to political catastrophe. During the years of World War I, Rasputin's increasing drunkenness, sexual promiscuity, and willingness to accept bribes in return for helping petitioners who flocked to his apartment, as well as his efforts to have critics dismissed from their posts, made him appear increasingly cynical. Attaining divine grace through sin seemed to have been one of the central secret doctrines which Rasputin preached to and practiced with his inner circle of society ladies. During World War I, Rasputin became the focus of accusations of unpatriotic influence at court. The unpopular Tsarina, meanwhile, who was of Anglo-German descent, was accused of acting as a spy in German employ. And so that's also another big deal is the Tsarina, she was not well liked.
No, it doesn't sound like it.
She wasn't in general, so the fact that he was like her friend, that was like a strike against him automatically. At one point, Rasputin said, okay, well, if you're going to be sending these troops early in the war, he said, if you're going to be sending these troops out, I want to go out in front and bless them. And the commander-in-chief, who was the Grand Duke Nicholas, he promised to hang him if he dared to show up.
Oh.
Yes.
Like, keep the fuck away.
So then he got pissed off, Rasputin did, and he was like, all right, fine, okay, I have this revelation. That the Russian armies will not be successful until the Tsar personally takes command. Yeah.
So he's trying to, like, totally...
So Grand Duke Nicholas basically got fucked over because he wouldn't let Rasputin come to the field. And so with this, the ill-prepared Tsar Nicholas proceeded to take personal command of the Russian army with dire consequences for himself as well as for Russia. Mm-hmm. And so... because he was taking personal command, he was away a lot. Mm-hmm. And that's when Rasputin's influence over the Tsarina Alexandra increased.
Of course.
He became her confidant and personal advisor, and he would actually fill some of the governmental offices with his own handpicked candidates. Rasputin cohabitated with upper-class women in exchange for granting political favors.
Ooh.
Yes. I made a little note. It said, thus beginning the domino effect of fucking shit up.
Seriously.
Yes. So.
I mean, shit, Americans do it to this day.
Yeah, seriously, though. Look at this picture of him in the hospital. Fucking crazy eyes, man. Anytime I see a picture of that man, his eyes, like, chill me. He's dark.
Yeah.
He's extremely dark.
And he's got, like, a very, like, sharp-lined face.
Yes, and he's very dramatic looking.
Yeah.
In all ways. So on the 12th of July, 1914, a 33-year-old peasant woman named Chiona Gusteva attempted to assassinate Rasputin by stabbing him in the stomach outside his home.
Oh.
They didn't think he was going to, but he did recover from the attack. And what they say is that Gusteva was a follower of Heliodor, a former priest that had supported Rasputin before denouncing his sexual escapades and self-aggrandizement. I don't know what that means. What's that word? Help me. That's I read it. I know what it means.
Aggrandizement.
Agitate.
Fuck me.
Yeah, anyway.
And that is one fuck of a word.
I know. That snuck up on me. Sorry, guys. I know. You always think you're intelligent until you have to read shit out loud.
I know. At least when you're reading to yourself, you can just kind of glaze over it.
So anyway, 3 years before this assassination attempt, in the December of 1911, this guy was like, he used to be his friend, and then he was like, this guy's a fuck. No, don't. So Heliodor, he'd been part of a group of establishment figures who attempted to drive a wedge between the royal family and Rasputin in 1911. And he, as a result, Heliodor, he was banished from St. Petersburg and was ultimately defrocked. So this dude had it out for Rasputin. Gusteva claimed to have acted alone, having read about Rasputin in newspapers and believing him to be a false prophet and even an antichrist.
And somebody had to take care of it.
That's right. So Heliodor actually fled the country before he could be questioned about the assassination attempt. And Gusteva was found to be not responsible for her actions due to insanity.
Of course.
Yeah. So according to his daughter Maria, Rasputin was very much changed by the experience and began to drink alcohol. But it sounds like he was drinking a lot of alcohol before that.
Yeah.
He gave it up, and then he didn't And then suddenly he's like, oh, well, I have to drink in order to come to terms with my sins.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was drinking the whole time is my thoughts. He maybe tried to give it up and then justified it.
Yeah.
Okay, so how he died.
Okay.
Very interesting. So basically he was a shaman who was healing which I guess I should be talking about, like, how he would, like, heal Alexei.
But this is just, like, his
but
story.
He is just so fascinating.
Yeah.
Rasputin, he was murdered during the early morning of December 30th, 1916, at the home of Felix Yusupov. He died of 3 gunshot wounds, one of which was a close-range shot to his forehead. So this is a very interesting story, and this is all according to Felix. He invited Rasputin to his home shortly after midnight and ushered him into the basement, and he offered Rasputin tea and cakes which had been laced with cyanide. And at first Rasputin was like, no, I'm not going to eat those.
Yeah.
And Felix was like, come on, it's fine. And so finally, eventually, Rasputin did eat 1 or 2, but he wasn't affected by the poison. And then he asked for some Madeira wine, which had also been poisoned. So these people covered their fucking faces.
Yeah.
And he drank 3 glasses, but still no signs of distress. What? I know, this is crazy. This is why he's a shaman. At around 2:30 a.m., Felix excused himself to go upstairs where his fellow conspirators were waiting. He was like, this guy's not fucking dying. You guys, like, we cannot let him live. What do we do? So one guy named Dmitry Pavlovich, they gave Felix a revolver. And so he returned to the basement, and referring to a crucifix that was in the room, he told Rasputin that he'd better look at the crucifix and say a prayer, then shot him once in the chest. And so he was like, okay, this guy's dead, we got to get out of here. So they drove at once to Rasputin's apartment, and one of the conspirators was wearing Rasputin's coat and hat in an attempt to make it look as though
Rasputin was coming home.
Exactly, for the night.
Yeah.
And upon returning home, Felix went back to the basement to ensure that Rasputin was dead. Suddenly, Rasputin leapt up and attacked Felix, who, with some effort, freed himself and fled upstairs. Rasputin followed after eating all this cyanide
and being shot in the chest.
Yes. And he made it to the palace's courtyard before being shot, and he collapsed into a snowbank. The conspirators then wrapped Rasputin's body in a cloth and drove it to Petrovsky Bridge and dropped it into the Neva River. The Tsarina Alexandra, she ended up burying Rasputin's body in the grounds of this of the Tsarskoye Selo, but after the February Revolution, a group of workers in St. Petersburg uncovered the remains and carried them to nearby woods and burned them. As the body was being burned, Rasputin appeared to sit up in the fire.
Ah!
Yeah, his apparent attempts to move and get up thoroughly horrified bystanders, and what they think actually happened was before they burned him, they didn't cut the tendons.
Oh, and no, so they shrunk.
Yeah, so they shrunk it. So he sat up.
That would be so terrifying.
So that's not a lie, which is really crazy to think about. But yeah, he fucking sat up.
You have to cut the tendons.
Yep.
Everybody who's
I would have
body
thought of
that.
Yeah, right. Just cut everything. If it has a joint, cut it.
No, really, that makes perfect sense. That is fucking terrifying.
So that really that really fueled the legends and mystery surrounding him. He that was just according to Felix of how he died, though. But what they're saying is that it kind of looks like he was, like, beaten to a pulp, and there was a lot of stab wounds, there was a lot of bruising. They also say that he didn't have any cyanide or anything in his stomach. I don't know how they could possibly know all that after he'd been dead for so long.
Yeah, I don't know, especially after being thrown in a river.
I don't know enough about forensics.
Really, like, waterlogged once you're thrown in a river.
Exactly. And he did have some water in his lungs, but it was not... But it's a common, non-specific autopsy finding.
Okay, but here's the thing. If you're thrown into water when you're already dead, you don't necessarily, most of the time, have water in your lungs. It's only when you're still alive and still trying to breathe that you have water in your lungs. So...
So he didn't have a lot of it, though. It wasn't anything to note, is what they're saying.
That's still...
And so, I don't know if it was as... It sounds like Felix was just... spinning tales.
I don't know.
But who knows?
They could have shot him in the chest just right to where it didn't quite hit anything, or maybe just nicked a thing or two.
Yeah.
Because... I don't know.
There's another theory. It's a British theory, and that they suggest that the British Secret Intelligence Service were involved in his assassination. Part of the theory is that the agents were concerned that Rasputin was urging the Tsar to make separate peace with Germany and withdraw from the war, and this would allow Germany to transfer a large number of troops to the Western Front. Mm-hmm. And so that would fuck Britain's shit up in World War I.
Yeah, and they wanted to make sure that didn't happen.
Yes. And so they're just saying that it's very possible that Britain was involved in that whole debacle.
Very well could have been.
So his daughter, actually, she immigrated to France after the October Revolution and then to the U.S., and there she worked as a dancer and then a tiger trainer in a circus.
Whoa.
Yes. She did leave memoirs about her father, but she painted an almost saintly picture of him. And she is saying that a lot of this negativity is slander and misrepresentations. It's just interesting that a man would incite such rumor mongering.
I mean, my thing is he probably did like most of it. But if his daughter is anything like her mother, then she worships the ground that he walks on.
And you have to in order to stay with him.
Well, and he can do no wrong. Mm-hmm. So she's going to be like, no, it was all slander. Well, maybe not all of it. Mm-hmm. Maybe a lot of it was true and part of it was slander. That's how I feel. So it's just, wow.
Yeah, this, I feel like, only touched base. I actually watched this amazing documentary that he's always been fascinating to me, but I think it was on A&E. This documentary about him, I don't know. I'm sure.
Was it Intervention?
No, it's not Intervention, although it should have been.
For his drinking and his craziness.
He is an interesting character. I just find him fascinating. I just think that he, I don't know if it was wrong place, wrong time. I don't know if he was as fantastic as people say he was. Either way, he was extremely influential.
Yeah.
And he pissed off a lot of people, and I think that he was part of the reason why the Tsar and the Tsarina and their entire family were murdered.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
It was just another, straw on the camel's back, I think. Mm-hmm. But I think he was a big straw.
I think it had more to do with the Tsarina, how, devout she was to him.
Absolutely. There was a lot of revolution. Mm-hmm. They didn't like her. She liked him. And, yeah. So, that's my shaman.
Yeah. Right. Awesome. Cool.
Yeah, he was fun.
Huh? Really, I did not expect when you were like, nope, I have him. He's good. We're good. Don't do any crazy guys in the, in the Europe area or whatever it was that you said. I was thinking it was like overseas, and I was like, the fuck? What? How?
And white guys from Europe is what I said.
I know. I was like, okay.
I didn't want to say more than that because I thought for sure you'd guess, but.
No, I didn't guess. I honestly had no idea. I was very surprised, but very pleasantly surprised.
Yay!
That dude was one crazy motherfucker.
Yeah. Once again, I go back to something Russian. I like the Russian stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
Fascinating culture.
I love everything about Russia except for,
Russians.
Yeah. I'm not going to say that.
I was kidding.
Whoa.
Kidding.
No. I love the language. I love, a lot of the culture.
The architecture.
And the architecture. Oh my gosh. I want nothing more to be in Moscow at the Red Square on a winter's day, Mm-hmm. It was just, that's just like one of my dream things. But I don't know. I love it. I love the, how hardy the Russian people are. I mean, look at how much winter they actually go through.
I was thinking was kind of funny is that Rasputin, he has the word Putin.
Putin.
And I was like, fitting.
Putin. All right. So, to kind of get into mine here, I went down so many avenues. Oh, excuse me. That beer is coming right back up. I went down so many avenues, and I kept trying to find all of these things. When you Google shaman or anything like that, do you know that 99% of the results that come up are for World of Warcraft?
I did come across that, and I was like, what?
I struggled with that, and then I just found this one small Wikipedia article that was literally 2 paragraphs long, didn't give any names, nothing, it didn't help me at all, and so then I tried spinning the search and everything, and I was really heavily considering doing Geronimo.
Okay.
Because that guy was pretty interesting. I felt really bad for him. And then I was like, no, we'll go ahead and not do that because then I still wasn't quite sure. So then I was like, I found this one article where they were talking about skinwalkers.
Mm-hmm.
And they went on to say that, there's a lot of people out there who believe that Native American shaman who performed dangerous and evil ceremonies, basically, were the ones that would die and come back as skinwalkers.
Oh,
and then,
shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I forget the word that they used. It was egregious or something like that.
They performed egregious acts. So
yeah,
unforgivable.
but in ceremony. Not even just on their own, but just in ceremony. Egregious.
Yeah, that's fucked up. If you do something that's egregious, that means it will never be forgiven.
Exactly, and that's why they become skinwalkers. And so then I found all these skinwalker stories, and I was like, this would be really cool just to sit there and read aloud, because these people had some serious, like, I mean, obviously they're, like, kind of like the urban legend type thing. They're telling their story. But it's like, as I'm reading them, excuse me, guinea pig. she's ripping up her paper. Anyways, they just, the stories, I was reading them at night, and I was like, I have to sleep with the light on because some of these are absolutely terrifying. Like, I don't live on a reservation. The closest reservation is like 45 minutes away. I'm terrified.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
nice.
like
we live in like a very interesting vibe-wise place in America.
We really
I think.
do.
It has a very interesting vibe to it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shit going on.
It's really crazy though, because there's, I'm used to growing up where you drive 10 minutes and you're on a different reservation.
Yep, there's a lot of Native
coastal Native Americans, yeah. And that's perfectly fine. Down here, it's like they're more spaced out, but I do understand that, they were more nomadic down here back then. And they did move around a lot more, so that's just also interesting to me, too. But I don't know. And then I decided about an hour and a half ago that I wasn't going to do that.
Oh, okay. So what are you doing?
And you're going to love this one. I am doing the Germanic mythological Odin.
Oh, cool.
Yay!
Cool.
Of Norse mythology.
Uh-huh.
And he was basically a healer. He brought ecstasy to people, just all the stuff that, like, and I went through and
so this is not the Nordic, but Germanic version of
Odin. Well, actually, yes, the Germanic. So not the Nordic.
Cool. That's interesting.
But I think it could kind of be used in both.
Well, one was adopted from the other. So
that's right.
It's like the
Germanic,
the Roman
adopted
and Greek gods
from
Nordic.
There we go. Anyways, so in Germanic mythology, Odin is a widely revered god in Norse mythology, from which stems most of the information about the god. Odin is associated with healing, death, royalty, the gallows, knowledge, battle, sorcery, poetry, frenzy, and the runic alphabet.
Cool.
So this guy,
he's pretty well accomplished.
He is very, very well accomplished. And is the husband of a goddess, Frigg. In wider Germanic mythology and paganism, Odin was well known in Old English as Woden, in Old Saxon as Wodan, and in Old High German as Wotan or Wotan. It's so funny. Wotan. There's so many different.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh.
Well, it's interesting though because he like.
It's very like
he went
side by side.
He went from one culture to another.
Yeah. But, and like I said, I did this like 10 minutes before.
That's alright.
So you just gotta deal with me for a second.
He's really interesting.
So he's prominently mentioned through the recorded history of the Germanic peoples, from the Roman occupation, all the way to the Viking Age and the migration period, all of that. Which you should know all about Germanic history, right?
I know a little bit, actually.
I know nothing.
I think it's very, very fascinating.
It is, I do actually know a little bit, but I'm just not like...
Oh, I'm not. It's not like I grew up there and I know the history.
Yeah, it's like you could talk to me as if I've never heard it before, and I will not have heard it before, So, for the Norse part of it, because, like I said, like, even just, like, the little bit I've read, like, in a little bit, it was very, very side by side, like, very parallel. So, in Old Norse texts, Odin is depicted as one-eyed and long-bearded, frequently wielding a spear named Gungnir. He named his spear Gungnir. And wearing a cloak and a broad hat. And then we have this picture up at the top of the Germanic Odin, and it's Odin the Wanderer, and he basically looks like Gandalf the Grey.
Nice.
He's got the big white beard, the wide-brimmed hat. It's not a pointy hat, but it's just a sit on like an old school fisherman's hat.
Cool.
And then he does have his stick, his spear, and
Looks like Ansel Adams to me.
Ansel Adams.
Mhm.
Really?
The photographer? That was him, right?
I don't know.
Anyway, go ahead.
Anyways, no, to me he just looks like Gandalf the Grey, not the white though, the Grey. So that was very similar. He was often accompanied by his animal companions, the wolves Jerry and Frecky, and the ravens Huggin and Munnin, who would bring him information from all over the place. And he rides the flying 8-legged steed Sleipnir.
Mm-hmm.
Sleep near me? Sleep with me?
Sleep on me.
Sleep for it? Banana boats. I don't know.
Yes.
So he has a particular... Oh, okay, yeah, that's Ansel Adams. Okay. I never knew what he looked like.
Yeah. Yeah, he's an interesting character.
Okay, so in the text, he seeks greater knowledge and is a lot of the times in disguise. He would often make wagers with his wife about outcomes of exploits.
Oh.
Which, I mean, family that gambles together stays together.
That's
right. Okay, so in the old text, Odin is given primacy over female beings associated with the battlefield, like the Valkyrias.
Okay.
And oversees Valhalla, where he receives half of those who die in battle. The other half are chosen by the goddess Freya for her afterlife location. So that's just another thing. It's, I almost kind of wonder, like, with these whole, like, godly, stories and mythologies, I wonder if they took into account that these gods might be picking who comes to them, and that's why they die in battle.
Interesting.
Or if it's just, they just thought that maybe it was just,
It was
obviously
the ultimate sign of honor was to die in battle.
Exactly, but I also wonder, it's like, well, maybe they're just like, yeah, I like that one. Let's just, beep, you're done.
Maybe.
Maybe. It's just one of those things. Origin and theories. I'm getting all of this off of Wikipedia, and the thing
Wikipedia is awesome. That's where I got all my stuff for.
Oh my gosh, I know. It is so incredible. There was something I did see on here earlier that there would be people who were injured in battle, and I am so not put together.
No, you're good. I'm enjoying this.
There were people that would be injured in battle, and they would call out to their god Odin, and magically they'd be able to get back up again. And, these people going out on the battlefields, they're fighting for their god Odin, they were gonna reap all of these benefits because they fought in the name of this god, and blah, 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 blah. So it's like, by Odin, they could do no wrong as long as they were fighting, and they would be rewarded heavily. So, I forgot where I was going with that. But it was just really interesting to me because I've always been a huge fan of, like, ancient times and things like that. Mainly like ancient Rome. I really like ancient Rome. But just the way that it's kind of like mirroring the way it is now. It's like people do things for their gods, but then back then people were still doing things for their gods. But back then, like, everybody was a lot more extreme. It was just, everybody thought that, hey, you are, being chosen for this position to do this one thing because you were born, a peasant. You were meant to stay a peasant and, fight in the Gladiator Coliseum and, all this other stuff and being sold off into slavery. They all regarded their gods so highly and their people so lowly. It was just, I'm rambling now, but really, it was really always just been so interesting to me.
I'm really fascinated with ancient cultures as well.
Yeah, it's just, I love it. I absolutely love it. There's a tab on here called attestations. attestations?
Let me see. Attestations.
Attestations.
People that are attesting.
Oh, okay.
Let me get a testify.
So,
I feel like I need a tambourine.
Oh, yeah, a tambourine would be nice.
Or it's time to testify.
Or we could just play the new TLC song.
Yes. That's so bad.
No, my God, it was so awful.
Just call it TC. Just call it what it is.
God, I just wanted to blow my brains out, and now I can't blow my brains out. So there's a lot of, it seems like there's a lot of text for the Germanic Odin as to what happened between the Roman era and the migration period that they think might be like pretty legit, but they're not really sure. So the earliest records of the Germanic peoples were recorded by the Romans, and in these works, Odin is frequently referred to via a process known as interpretatio Romana, as the Roman god Mercury. The first clear example of this occurs in the Roman history's late 1st century work Germania, where writing about the religion of the Suebi, a confederation of Germanic peoples, that's I guess what they're called, he comments that among the gods Mercury is the one they principally worship. They regard it as a religious duty to offer him, on fixed days, human as well as other sacrificial victims. Hercules and Mars they appease by animal offerings of the permitted kind. And then they add that a portion of the Germanic peoples also venerate Isis. They still did fucking sacrifices. That's so crazy to me.
That's why they, oh, we won't get into it.
No.
I was gonna, nope.
No.
You know where I'm going.
Yep, I know where you're going. Fuck. Anyways, so in this instance, the writer refers to the god Odin as Mercury, Thor as Hercules, and Tyr as Mars. And the identity of the Isis has been debated, so they're not quite sure who that's going to be. So it's basically, they'll go ahead and sacrifice people, like, say, my daughter is sick, so here, have this virgin. And sometimes it would work out, other times it wouldn't, I would imagine, but the times that it worked out made it to where they were like, hey, let's keep doing this.
Or if it didn't work out and they thought that they didn't give the right person.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing that I found too, is in like the little bit of reading I've done over it, I saw an article where it had like just a few of the stories on Odin and, you know, the fact that he did have the healing powers and that he did, you know, do all these other great things. And so obviously if you have all of these stories about how great they are, why wouldn't you want to keep that greatness alive, you know? Yeah. So, like I said, there wasn't much to it, but
no, I think that's
Odin
really fascinating.
is really fascinating, and my story would have been a lot shorter if I did Geronimo. It was really frustrating.
With that one, huh?
I did really struggle with that one. It was really hard. I don't want to do any more hard ones.
I guess the funny thing is you never really know what's hard until you go to research it.
Well, and that's the thing too, is I thought it would be easier once I got like the definition of shamanism down and how diverse it was country to country. I thought it would be a lot easier, but the problem is with a lot of the cultures that I found, their shamans were mythical. They weren't like real people, so it was harder to find like real accounts of these things unless it was like modern day, like it just happened last year, which I didn't want that. That's boring.
Yeah.
Anybody can go find that. But it was just, it was a story.
So what subject wouldn't be hard to you? I was thinking like nature, something mysterious in nature. There's a lot of natural mysteries.
I like that one. I had a couple of other ideas written down too.
Let's hear them.
I didn't write them down.
Or do we want to discuss them later?
I think mysteries in nature would be really cool. Like the exploding rocks. Those are fun. Mysteries in nature is cool. I also had an idea of like twisted backstories of haunted locations.
Okay.
Because ghosts are fucking badass.
I'm writing
and then I also had like a mythical creatures one, or like a legendary creature is one, or I do have a lot of ideas. I think for me, Shaman felt a little more narrow,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the broader subjects are definitely easier.
So what do you want to do next week?
I don't know. Should we throw all the ideas in a hat and that's what we should do. Every time we have a right idea, we write it down on a piece of paper and we put it into a box.
I'll text you.
And then at the end of every episode, we can pick it out of the box, and that's when we do next. That's exciting.
I like it.
Oh my gosh. This is groundbreaking. I am telling you right now.
So are we going to make it a mystery for what we do next week?
Yeah, because we're just going to have to
figure
out what we drew. I'm thinking what we can do is, since we're not doing it at the end of this episode here, is we can get it all written out and then have it posted to Facebook some point, probably like next weekend or something.
Cool.
We'll have the entire week to think of all of these crazy ideas, and then we can go from there, because we'll have an episode, or actually, this is the second, so this one will come out next week because we recorded 2 in a row again.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did. So it'll be the weekend that this episode comes out.
Okay.
We can go ahead and draw what we want to do.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I like it.
Cool.
All right. Well, is there anything else we need to cover or discuss, or?
No, I really like, I'd like us to get a little more present to people, like in front of people, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
So, tell your friends.
Tell your friends.
Mm-hmm. And
we
maybe
like
one
friends.
day we'll have merch.
Yes.
That'd be cool.
I've got that vinyl cutting machine. I could make us bumper stickers, or window stickers.
For sure. That'd be
vinyl
cool.
stickers. Yay!
Cool.
Merch is fun. Ooh, and then we could make t-shirts with just big penises on them.
That is a mystery.
It is a mystery. No one will ever know. Why are you walking around with penis on your shirt? Why aren't you walking around with a penis on your shirt?
I was stupid, and instead of a finger pointing, it's going to be a penis.
It's going to be a penis.
Penis pointing that way. Funny.
All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much.
All right, bye.
Tell your friends. Let us know if you want merch, because that's probably something we could, if we just do stickers, that's something I could start working on, like.
Or maybe there might even be. Yeah, let's look into that. Let's do a little more before we start saying exactly, because there might be really inexpensive ways to do it. You know, like a piece by piece basis or something.
Well, that's what I'm kind of thinking, is like a piece by piece. If somebody wants it, then I'll make it for them, and they pay me for it. Because my vinyl color cuts really fast.
Okay. Yeah, we'll talk about it.
All right, sounds good. Well, thank you guys so much for listening.
All right, bye.
We love you. Bye.
Bye.
Hey everyone, it's Brittney here. I just wanted to say thank you for listening to another episode of the All Things Strange podcast. I just wanted to let you know that we are all across social media doing everything that we can to get the word out. We do have our email all set up, so if you want to send in suggestions, or if we're not on a platform that you want to listen to us on, I can do my best to get us on there. So the email is allthingsstrangepodcast@gmail.com. We are also All Things Strange Podcast on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, on SoundCloud, on iTunes. On Twitter, we are All Strange Pod, because apparently All Things Strange Podcast was way too many letters for that specific platform. I mean, you only get so many. But please go follow us on all those social medias. I'm going to try to be a lot more active on them, because I want to hear from you guys, and I want you to, like, see what we're doing all the time and everything like that. Make sure to share the posts with your friends, like, subscribe, rate, comment, be a part of our little family here, because we want to grow. We want things to be amazing for you guys. We really do appreciate you. With our 4 listeners out there. I know we don't have very many, but it's cool. You're one of us. You're here with us at the beginning. We love you. We appreciate it. Thank you so, so much, and we'll talk to you later.